Well, it's very common in the United States, too, for broadcast journalists to have their faces on TV. And although I've not done broadcast journalism myself, I have many, many, many students who have gone into broadcast journalism, so I have a lot of familiarity. And most of them are shown with their faces on TV. So I have no ethical problem with that. I think the more interesting issue you raised is, and it's not just true of live TV, it's now true of all journalism because it gets published online so quickly, is keeping the balance between, as I said in my speech, getting the story correct and being the first one to upload it, or in your case, to go on the air with it. And I completely understand the pressures. It's a super competitive business. It's more competitive now than ever before. Everybody wants to be the first one to have it. But if you are first and keep getting things wrong, even if it's an innocent mistake, an honest error, eventually you begin to destroy the trust of your audience. And being first is not worth that because you'll have less of an audience left to watch you being first if they decide that you're not reliable. And I think this is one of the big struggles for executives in the news industry, is executives really have to decide what standards they will set about when to put through a broadcast or an article. Or look, these days a lot of news gets live tweeted. You know, how quickly will you put out a tweet about something? How much verification do you want it to have? Are you willing to have your reporters put unedited content out there right away simply because it might be their first? That can be very risky. I remember a few years ago there was a major Supreme Court decision in the United States. It had to do with whether the Supreme Court was going to strike down the health care program that President Obama had created. And all the major news organizations wanted to cover the announcement of the decision. And the way it works is the decision is written and it's handed out or put online at exactly the same time for all the journalists to have access to. And a number of news organizations made a mistake. They read the beginning, like the first 5 pages or so of a 25-page decision, and they said, aha, the healthcare plan program has been struck down by the Supreme Court. But it wasn't. It was a 2-part decision, and one part of the law was struck down, but the second, more important part was upheld. And a lot of these journalists were so concerned about being first, they didn't even read all 25 pages of the decision. And then, of course, they were very embarrassed. But that's what we have to struggle with. I think it's a message news executives have to give their staff, but it's also on the conscience of every individual reporter who has to say, even when there's pressure from an editor, I haven't read the whole decision yet. I'm sorry, I can't write my tweet yet because I don't know everything the court ruled.